Welcome back. Now, after months of near zero demand, airlines are starting to add routes back to the network, although it is far, far from anything like they've seen before. Delta says it'll add more flights in June, even though it'll be barely a few more. I mean, even after the new flights, it's still going to be only about 10–15% of their network. Southwest, the schedule has dropped 60 to 70%. Delta's is at 85%. United is down 90%. There are significant financial pressures, of course, for the airlines. Etihad, which is the national airline based in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, announced layoffs today directly tied to the pandemic, and that says there will be layoffs in several areas across the business group. Tony Douglas is the chief executive of Etihad. He joins me now. Tony, good to see you, sir. I do very grateful that you're talking to us. You're starting to add some new routes, or routes back in a very targeted fashion. What's the thinking?
Hello, Richard. And I know you know Abu Dhabi very well. On my right-hand side, out of view, in the dark night sky, is the airfield of Abu Dhabi International Airport. And for us in aviation, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see a large proportion of our fleet parked up. The problem that aviation is being decimated by the world over. So, of course, all of us want to get back to flying. And what we're trying to do is handle that in a very controlled way. Up to now, we've concentrated on our freighter flying, cargo, right. Obviously, in terms of food security, in terms of medical supplies has been key. But off the back of that, we found that we were able to deploy up to 25 of our 787 Dreamliners. They're a wonderfully efficient aircraft, and we've got a skeleton network up and running off the back of that.
So with that in mind, how long do you think it will be before you are back? The phrase that's being used is meaningful flying. Some are saying June, others say July. Norwegian's not looking till next year. How long before Etihad is back to meaningful flying?
Well, I have to say my crystal ball is no better calibrated, quite frankly, than anybody else's. There's a lot of variables in this equation, as we all know. But what we tried to do off the back of that skeleton network that I referred to before, where we're flying passenger aircraft at the moment just with belly hold cargo, it's allowed us to be able to do repatriation flying. So obviously people who live in other countries outside of Abu Dhabi, and we post every day on Etihad.com all the destinations that we can do in that regard. Equally, we've been doing repatriation flying off the back of that same skeleton network back here into Abu Dhabi. And last Saturday, we did our first transfer flight between Melbourne, Australia and London Heathrow. So it's small steps in a very controlled way, subject obviously to government approval here in Abu Dhabi and the destinations in question. But to answer your question, my sense is we're looking at the 16th of July is when we see that we'd like to make a few more steps. And hopefully with the right approvals in place where it's safe to fly, we'll build off the back of that, Richard.
Tony, obviously this has come up, the issue of Etihad and Emirates either coming together, merging, whatever. I can construct any one of a million variants on the combination. But the idea is, look, two airlines, one country, both making losses for the foreseeable future. Does it not now make sense for those two airlines to combine?
I think in your introduction, you talked about the hideous losses that all airlines are taking at the moment, and there's no denying that. And that's a reality of what COVID has done to our industry, and obviously the economic tsunami that seems to be washing through as a result. I could probably resolve our losses if I had $1 for every time somebody's asked that question about the merger of us and Emirates. I'm sure Tim Clark could probably get $2 for every time he's been asked the same question as well. The simple answer, Richard, is this. At this point in time, I don't know of any plans in that regard.
Right.
Were there ever to be so, it's something that would be handled at stakeholder level or shareholder level. But what we are doing, wherever possible, is working together. So there's a lot of volunteering we're doing in the way in which we're supporting humanitarian aid. There's a lot of freighter and cargo flying we're doing to work together in a non-competitive way.
Finally, I believe one of your planes for the first time went to or is on its way to Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. It's a humanitarian flight for Palestinians in the territories there. But it proves your pilots can find their way to Israel and potentially, I'm just being mischievous here, of course, Tony, that's a new destination for you. I mean, let's face it, if you're looking to make up losses.
In terms of the humanitarian flying that we've been doing, I can tell you, I thought I had a reasonably well-developed knowledge of geography. We've been flying to places we hardly knew existed. We've been doing an extensive amount of humanitarian aid. The government of the UAE has generously been donating support all around the world. And you're absolutely right. As we speak now, that aircraft's just about to leave Ben Gurion, having given vital medical aid to the Palestinian people. And who knows, the world continues to change. I imagine there's destinations that we've been flying in the past that we'll no longer find economic value in going forward. And equally, there was probably places that will emerge as a result of the economic changes that will be around all of us that we'll find opportunity in. Etihad's a high-class carrier. Etihad's home is Abu Dhabi, where standards are extremely high. We are, we believe, one of the safest places in the world. And when this thing finishes, and for sure it will do, what we want to make sure is the standards that we're able to deliver are the standards that the travelling public will want to enjoy when the world's ready to fly again.
A tantalising answer with many different supplementaries. If only we had time, Tony. If only we had time. But there will be time in the future, and we look forward to that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, as always. Tony Douglas joining me from Abu Dhabi.